Thanks, Clesia. Yeah, we are recording. There were a few people who asked for that. Thank you. So anyway, on the Valentine's Day webinar for single people who are dating or want to be dating, we realized, Mark and I realized, that really we need to devote at least one webinar on the principles. You know, there's no end to learning about them, but it's really nice to have at least some communication that Mark and I are going to do. And I think, you know, if we could start out with Mark, you want to just introduce yourself, because not everybody knows you, not everybody knows me here. Want to start out?
Well, yeah. I'm Mark Howard, and I'm a PhD psychologist in California. I have been coaching people and mentoring people and working in a mental health field with people, providing therapy for over 33 years. I mean, quite a long time now. And I came upon this understanding that we're going to share a bit today, these three principles in 1983, and really have, it really changed my life. And I brought it to my clients from the very beginning, and it has changed their lives as well. I'm married and have a grown son. He lives in Los Angeles, and just continuing to devote my time to bringing this understanding to people.
And I'm really lucky to work with Mark. We've known each other for many years, bumping into each other on two separate coasts since somewhere in the early 80s, I think, late 70s, early 80s. And I'm a marriage and family therapist. I really switched careers so that I could expose more people to these principles, because it made a huge difference in my own life. And really, I'm seeing that more and more in recent years. In fact, I kind of bowed out for a while, and meaning that I wasn't attending annual conferences, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about the principles. And lo and behold, you know, that was not at all the case. So the wonderful thing about this is that the more you explore, the more people you listen to, and of course, the more you expose yourself to Sid Banks' work, his books, his videotapes, the more that you will see and the more insights you're going to have. So Mark and I thought that we'd start out by talking a little bit about, first of all, how to listen during this webinar, which is the same kind of listening that you want to do with your partner, or if you're just meeting somebody for the first time, or even with your boss or your kids. And that kind of listening is different than the typical listening people are accustomed to. The listening that people typically do is through their own thoughts. You know, I really see this in my counseling sessions with clients, that they're interrupting each other and wanting to give their side of things. So as you listen to Mark and I talking about our experience and how we understand the principles, you want to just have your own mind quiet. Even if you've been a student of the principles for a while, I love doing this at conferences or webinars that I listen to now, to just forget what I think I already know about the principles. Just forget about that and see what you can see that'll be brand new. So this kind of listening is very, very quiet, very gentle, very soft. You may not be hit with an insight during this hour. It may happen later when you least expect it, where all of a sudden something becomes kind of crystal clear to you that you didn't see before. Or you're in the middle of talking to somebody and you drop into a deeper listening with them, and you might hear something that they're saying that they're not even aware of yet. And it's kind of interesting that that's exactly how the principles hit Sid. Sid Banks was in a conversation with someone, and that someone said to him something along the lines of, well, Sid, you just think you're insecure, but that's just a thought. And the person who said that kept going, but Sid heard something at a much deeper level than even the speaker, the person who spoke those words heard. Yeah. So, what do you want to say about listening, Mark? And then I have a little thing. I was reading The Enchanted Gardener Revisited, kind of to prepare for this webinar, one of Sid's books that I absolutely love. So what do you want to say about listening while I look up that couple of sentences?
You mean The Enlightened Gardener? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the way you started. I think that in our webinars on this topic of dating and relationship, listening is essential. And I kind of call it, when I'm mentoring people who want to share this understanding, I kind of call it listening beyond yourself. And as Laurie says, we're so easily thinking we're listening when we're really listening to our own thoughts, coming up with opinions of what the person is saying, or judging what they're saying, or can't wait till we talk and hope that they kind of stop so we can get in. So there's a lot of things we do just through our human conditioning where we think we're listening when we're really not. And it's kind of like really listening to the humanness of the other person. And in the dating realm, the more you can listen that way, the more connected you'll feel. Today, in listening to principles, that's how you want to listen. You don't want to try to get anything or see them in ways that you're looking to see, well, how can you implement them or anything like that. But this piece on listening, which I think Laurie and I are planning to do a follow-up on, is really a beautiful ingredient for people wanting to meet other people or in any form of relationship you have, because it gets you out of your own self-consciousness to the understanding of another person. So, Laurie, that's all I wanted to share about it.
And I'll read this little paragraph, a couple of sentences from Sid. He says, listening is when your babbling thought system takes a rest, when it stops analyzing and listens with purity of thought. So, I also want to be sure that we can be interactive here. And if you have any questions at any time, just raise your hand. I'll see you. It's kind of like Hollywood Squares here with everybody in their own little square.
Yeah, it is. If anybody knows that program, this feature of Zoom is like Hollywood Squares. And when people go off or come on, you move to another square automatically. So Laurie, you've been in 2 other squares so far today as people have come on or have left the meeting.
That's funny. Yeah. So, well, the 3 principles. They tell it all. I mean, that's the system that's behind everything. That's our psychological functioning. That is what's being called a paradigm, a new paradigm of seeing life from inside of us, from within us, looking out at life. And, the incredible thing about looking at this, it's kind of like turning the telescope around. Instead of looking at the telescope through the wrong end, we're actually now able to see more clearly when we realize that whatever we are experiencing is coming from these principles that are at work within us all the time for everybody. That's the nature of a principle. Just like, you know, we've lived with principles that we don't think about, but we know how they behave. The principle of gravity, we know how that behaves, and so we work with it. We know not to jump off a tall building, you know.
Yes.
And through the years and into the future, as people see this more and more, it's going to, and you know, it has for me, I know it has for Mark and so many people, my clients. It just brings so much more clarity. You know, when you talk about relationships, you can't get behind blaming somebody else or getting defensive. It's really hard to get defensive about things when you realize that whatever the person is saying is coming from their own thinking. It's coming from the principles at work within them. Mind, thought, and consciousness. It occurred to me that there may be people on the call that haven't heard that the three principles are simply mind, thought, and consciousness. And I don't know, Mark, what else do you want to say about principles? We could have this like a conversation between you and then open up for questions.
I think that's a nice plan. I'd love to hear from people and give room for people on the call to share. You know, it's really interesting that today, I didn't know how I was going to go about sharing with you, Laurie. And then today, I just saw how the principles work within the dating realm. And in meeting someone and being able to be with someone, to really be with someone. And I think that to me is my faith in the principles, that you stay reflective about what you have seen, what makes sense to you. And what I mean by reflective is you don't try to figure it out intellectually. And you may want to see something more, like I wanted to kind of see how I would share with everyone today. And then all of a sudden the way shows up, this kind of beautiful intelligence we're all a part of that we would look at as mind, you know, this spiritual energy that creates life that is before any form, any physical form in the physical world, that has an intelligence to it. And so what came to me is that when you have, like just what you were mentioning, Laurie, when you have some understanding of the principles, what it helps with when you go to be with someone is self-consciousness. And in a broad way, self-consciousness, meaning that with the understanding of how we're all connected to one another, because we're all mind, we're all part of mind, that person you're meeting for the first time or wanting to build a relationship is really the same as you. They really are the same. Spiritually, they're the same. Of course, physically, there's differences in the way they look and in the way they use the principle of thought. That principle for us to create thinking, to create a reality of our life moment to moment, which we're living. And if you, and all of us are doing that. All of us are using the principles to create an experience of one another moment to moment. So this person you're meeting is doing that and has done that. Now, how it comes out is they've got their ways. You know, they may, in your opinion, talk too much. They may, not want to do more than have a coffee. They may just want to talk over the phone. They may be very quiet kinds of people. So the principles play out in these ways that we have in our lives. And if you know that, then you're not so wrapped up in your way of thinking, as Lori said. In other words, you're not passing judgment, you're not blaming, because you know that experience is just coming from you through thought and through consciousness. And then you're more likely to try to grasp where this other person's coming from. This person you're meeting for the first time, this person who you may have a follow-up meeting with. The understanding of the principles opens up your heart. It's another way of what I'm saying. And that's love and understanding. And once that's open in you, because you know where your experience is coming from, and you can deeply appreciate that you are part of the spiritual energy, it opens up your heart. And when your heart is open, when you connect with someone, they feel it. And that also is what will guide you through a date. It will guide you through a conversation with a new person. Not your intellect trying to map out what you're going to say next. That gets you away from this kind of listening Lori and I are talking about. But really trying to open your heart to another person. So you have mind, which is the spiritual energy we're all a part of, the intelligence behind the universe. Thought, which allows us to create a reality we live in, and consciousness, which makes us aware of what we've created through thought. So it becomes alive for us. It looks very real. So, Lori, that's what came to me to share that piece about how it relates, how just a real easy, simple understanding of the principles can lead to really a connection on meeting someone for the first time, the second time, and for me with my wife for over 40 years. You know, I meet her every morning, you know, when we wake up, you know, and I hopefully try to meet her with an open heart through this understanding, but that's what the understanding provides. And what I saw again is it moves you right out of self-consciousness. So what do you think, Lori?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And so I love listening to you, Mark, you know, and it's so nice to hear how people, you know, all of us just who have whatever understanding we have of the principles, it's just coming from our own take on it. But the beautiful thing about this is that your experience, your personal experience, is a teacher, because you see that life is unfolding for you. It's not static and all out there, something that we're just recording or taking a picture of. It's how we think about things and how we think about other people. I love what you said about your heart opens more. You know, my experience is that when I'm less in my personal thinking, you know, as little personal thinking as possible, my spirits lift, because I'm not self-conscious. I don't have myself and, you know, what's happening to me on my mind. I'm just more of an open sponge, I guess, you know, kind of taking in who's with me or my environment. And I can feel the difference. You know, I can feel when I get caught up in my memory or in my thought system, you know, in my personal thinking and my ego thinking. I can feel my spirits drop. Sid spoke about that as, you know, going up and down in levels of consciousness. So consciousness being a principle that we're aware of whatever thought is on our mind, and so we're bringing that to life, but our consciousness shifts also with the amount of things that are on our mind, or if we're in an emptier mind. Does that make sense to all of you? That, like, do you sense that also as you're going through life with your current understanding of how the principles work within us? That you start feeling the difference, and that becomes like a guide for me. That's my little guide, that feeling of, whoa, I'm getting too caught up in my thinking. It comes as a feeling, I'll feel it without even realizing that I had just gotten caught up in a bunch of personal thoughts. And, that's really the gateway to discontent in relationships, is people getting caught up in personal thinking, taking things personally, getting their feelings hurt. I hear that so much with couples in my practice, that they don't feel respected or their feelings are being hurt. But, if you just have a joy and a sense of love for life and humanity, because humanity is part of life, then it's really hard to get your feelings hurt. People might say some really nasty things, and maybe there's a grain of truth in there for me to learn from, but it doesn't make sense anymore for my feelings to get hurt. Is anybody else, have you seen that, Mark, that it really shifts for you in your understanding of how it all works?
Well, yeah, for sure, Laurie, a tremendous amount. That has shifted deeper and deeper over the years, and again, we're back to, in terms of what you're sharing and reminding us of, that that taking things personally, again, is an indicator. These are just indicators that we're again with someone, and we're focusing on our thinking and our opinions. And in doing so, we've moved away from the connection we have for the other person to have understanding for them. Now, we might not end up liking to follow up with that person, but we would certainly get a deeper experience of the humanness of this person. Were we able to see it the way you do, that you're sharing, Laurie, that we can start to recognize there's these human conditioned ways of using thought about other people that get us taking things more personal than having understanding for people, like fault finding, blaming, all these things we've learned habitually to do. And Laurie, it's really helped me to recognize that, deeply so that I could, even though that may come up as I'm with someone, I can let that go and try to really hear this person for where they're coming from. And it doesn't fail that if I really can hear where this human being is coming from, deep in their soul, so to speak, or in their human condition, I'll see how we've got a common link. And my heart will go out to the person. I'll have understanding for them. And you know what? That produces a different relationship when I'm with that person than had I stayed in my personal thinking. And that's what you're looking for when you go out to meet someone new. That's what you're looking for, is that connection. That'll guide both of you through to what you want, what's the next step for you guys. I didn't say that too well at the end there, but I hope you got the point.
So do any of you have any questions for us? Always love answering people's questions. Kind of gives us a direction of something that.
It's not exactly a question. It's more a comment. I don't know if he's welcome, so I'm going to say it. I don't know. For example, for me, and I'm not seeing it clearly, obviously, if someone said they would call and they don't call, it's difficult not to make it personal.
That's a
So
great.
if someone says, yeah, if they say they would call, but they don't call, to me, that tells me they don't want to call. Therefore, they don't want to be in a communication, in a conversation. So yeah, I'm finding it difficult not to make it personal at this moment.
Yeah, I remember those days too, right? And you know, it it is easy until you realize that whatever's going on for them, and we don't have any clue what's going on for them. They might be insecure. That person may feel insecure and, you know, scared and frightened. And there is absolutely no way to know. And even if they're not calling us because, you know, they really want to meet a woman with blonde hair or somebody who's taller or shorter or this or that, or, you know, with some credentials that we don't have, what's the difference, really? What does it matter when it comes down to it? Some people like chocolate and some people like vanilla. You know, we all have preferences. It's not a reflection on who we are. And who we are is an essence that is way beyond our personality, the way we appear, the way we speak, our accent, where we're from. You know, it's beyond anything personal. And we all share this amazing essence, energy of all of nature, of all of the universe. So to judge one person, it's sort of like judging a grain of sand on a beach, or, you know, a star in the universe, you know, or a drop of water in the ocean. Although we do it as people, we do it sometimes unconsciously even, but so what? It's just a matter of preferences or liking the color red more than the color blue. It's really that simple. And we complicate it with our own personal thoughts. You know, so we'll go into our head and we'll think, well, I wonder what he didn't like. I wonder if it was when we said this line, or maybe we shouldn't have mentioned that thing, or, you know, and we get all caught up in the what ifs and if onlys, and the best, most wonderful, peaceful place for me to be is in so what? You know, really, it doesn't matter. What matters is our own state of mind in the moment. And none of us are in a wonderful, pure state of mind all the time. None of us. And you know, Klesia, I've heard stories like this from my father. Here's a great story. After my mom passed away, my father remarried. And he, well, the woman he married, he had a date with her. And this is in the old days of, you know, regular phones. There were no cell phones. So he really liked this woman, and he couldn't find her number. He had to wait for the end of the month for when her number appeared on his telephone bill. And that's how he called her for a second date. So we just never know what's going on the other end. What do you have to say, Mark?
Well, Lori, I thought that was beautiful. I, I mean, I think that covered it. That was really beautiful. I would only say again, you know, it is that tendency to look at it in terms of possibly in terms of rejection. That's taking it personal. And again, remember, that's just kind of made up, that whole piece of rejection. And again, that's the piece to see, because it keeps you at a level of being affected by somebody whose own use of thought is creating this. It's not up to you at all. And to see that to see that rejection doesn't allow us to just live in our own peaceful state of mind. It gets our mind going on things, like you said, evaluating how we did, which will really take us away from the feeling we're looking for and the wisdom we want to use to make sense of it. The one last piece that I see about it is sometimes it's nice that somebody doesn't call back, because how would you want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you? That would not be fun, let's go to the movies, and you sit 3 chairs apart from one another because the person doesn't want to be with you. I'm kind of exaggerating it, but there is the grain of truth that if you don't take it personal, it's easy to say, well, I'm better off because it's nice to be with somebody. I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me. So that's all I wanted to add, because you covered it so beautifully. And
it's great that you added that, Mark, because I date. I'm single, and I go on dates from time to time. And if somebody doesn't call me back now, I think exactly that way. That, well, thanks for weeding yourself out. I don't have to do any of the weeding that people just automatically drop off if it's not the right connection. I may not catch it, but if he caught it first, boy, that saved me time. I'd rather spend time myself than, like Mark said, than to be with somebody who isn't connecting with me, right? So I hope that helped.
Yes, that did help. And mostly that piece regarding keeping the peace of mind. And for me, that is really, really important, to keep the peace of mind. And it makes sense in the same way that I had people not calling me back. I also had people that I didn't want to call them back, no, I don't want to go to the movies with you again. So I just vanished quietly. I can see both sides.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that question. It's a good one.
Who else would like to share something or have a question? Or
Robert, you have to unmute. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to say, anybody that learning more about the 3 principles and staying in it, the more you learn about it, and the more it's always a part of us, but the more we get this understanding, the more love you feel in your life, and the less you take things personally, and you just end up attracting more love to you, because you're not doing things that get in the way of it. And Marty and I, she and I have been together 18 years now, and one of the things you always hear when you hear about Sid Banks and all the people that went to see him initially and stuff, they always talked about the couples that were there that just had fantastic relationships and really loved each other and so forth. And that's really the way it works. And when you get into these kind of relationships, you kind of exude that, and people recognize it. And you end up feeling love for, practically everything and everybody a good part of the time. And so I'd say staying in the principles, learning as much as you can, hanging around with people and like on webinars like this, just makes a huge difference. And eventually you attract the person that you're meant to be with. So that's my take on it anyway.
That was beautiful, Robert. Thank you. That was really wonderful. It's so true, isn't it, that all of the things people want is really the outcome of a deeper understanding of where life comes from within us. And then we can navigate through it so much easier. Yeah. So I'm so glad you said that. That all
There's
the
a,
yeah.
oh,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Mark.
Laurie. Oh, there's just a little angle here on kind of some underlying theme we've been on around connection. And again, we talk about understanding and understanding these points we've made today, uh, which have been several, um, but understanding how the person you're with in that moment um, is coming from the principles just like you, and is up against something, is coming from their human condition in their way, wanting a connection to, really. Ultimately, they're wanting a connection to. And if you have understanding about the truth of how you are all the same, that's what people are looking for in a relationship. They're looking for understanding when they present themselves to a person, or they present themselves today to you. They're looking for ultimately that understanding that this person is in the human condition using thought to create some feeling therein. And if you bring that level of understanding to bear inside you, you're sitting in that understanding, people will feel that. They want that. Any relationship, that's what people want. They just want understanding from another person. But not understanding about the complaints, but understanding deeper that they're in a troubled state of mind right now. Maybe, something like that. That does wonders. So that was another angle of what I've been hearing today, is that you sitting in your understanding for where experience of life comes from and where experience of another person comes from, and what that person's up against in their humanness, that's what they're looking for. They'll feel more of a connection. Ultimately, in a relationship, that understanding, just another way of connecting with someone outside of yourself. So many couples that I have seen, innocently, as we all do, get fooled into thinking that what they're looking for is their partner, or this person they're dating, to act better. If only they could act better. And underlying couples coming to see me is each person wanting me to fix the other person, to make them better. And there's nothing about being better. I mean, of course there are some things, people would like to talk about with each other and get kind of aligned with, and get them, and kind of deal with each other in an understanding way. But what they're looking for really is understanding that here we are in the human condition, trying to find a way to live happily with each other. And the more you can have understanding that people's ways are just coming from what they grew up in, what they learned, and have more of an appreciation for how they've gone about life, that calms people's minds down with you. And when people's minds calm down with you, because you're free of evaluation of them, they show you more. They show you more of their true humanness. They really do. And that deepens the connection.
Yeah, that's so true. Mm-hmm.
There's so much more people have to share. I'm sorry, I really kind of saw this piece again that I love. And I just take a moment with this and then check in again. But it's really true. The more people, there's so much more to people to share with you. And the only thing in the way is like what Laurie started with today, is the thinking in both of your minds. And most of the thinking in dating and beginning to know someone is self-consciousness, self-evaluation, which creates insecurity, nervousness, and so forth. But if you looked at someone with understanding and you looked at yourself for understanding of where this experience is coming from, and people feel that with you, or you feel that with yourself, your mind relaxes. And when your mind relaxes, you're more yourself. When I'm insecure in a relationship, I'm not relaxed. I'm nervous, or I'm trying to think of things, and I only get myself more insecure. But when I realize I've just got caught up in this thinking I'm doing and quieted that down, I'm just relaxed in my mind. And like Lori said, I really see the other person. When that other person experiences you this way, they tend to relax a bit in their minds. And when both of you do, you share more. And that sharing, you get to know them. You say, oh man, you really do see who they are. And that deepens the connection, that deepens the feeling of closeness. So I just wanted to share a little bit there, Lori, and with all of you. Lori and I will talk more to these points in our next webinar, or this class we're thinking of doing as well. So anybody else have something they'd like to share or a question?
I just wanted to comment a little. That was great what you said, Mark. You know, it made me think that in relationships I've had in the past, and, you know, they weren't meant for the long run, but every relationship I've had has really added a lot to my life. It's been a meaningful encounter. And they all like hit me by surprise. You know, like, I don't know how to explain it other than to say it just happened. We just found ourselves in a relationship. And I think it had a lot to do, I'm certain it had a lot to do with what Mark was just referring to, that when people are relaxed and they don't meet each other with expectations or wanting it to go in a certain direction, or any of those things that could be on our mind, it just has a life of its own. It unfolds naturally on its own. And that's part of, you know, the more I've seen how the principles work, the more I can get out of my own way so that life flows through me, takes me with it, however you want to think of it. But that's been my experience. So any questions or comments from anybody who's on with us? People are on the phone too, a couple of people, so feel free to ask anything. What is it that you...
Oh, somebody has something there. Brad. Brad does.
There we go, Brad. Have to unmute you. Unmute. Here we go. Oh, you got muted again.
I did.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Thank you. It's been I recently got into a relationship with a woman who we're both studying the three principles together.
Nice.
And we're going on our third month here, and it's just been amazing. I just wanted to hear your insights about when I really kind of get caught up on my thinking or what she's saying. This term psychological innocence, that we're both doing the best we can with the thinking we have, it's been a game changer, because it seems to somehow lift off where I think I ought to be, and just realize we're really doing the best we can in the moment.
Yeah.
And we've also got all these years of looking at the world outside in. And so it's kind of like a mixture of the old and the new. And it's, yeah, we can get up on edge on it sometimes, and we just don't come back to the point and saying, you know, we're still learning here. This is new in so many ways. But I'd love to hear about this thing about psychological innocence, because it's been, I don't know if anybody else has experienced, but it's just been a real game changer so far for us and for myself in particular. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Glad you brought that up, Brad. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll talk about innocence, right? That we really, every person is innocent, because, you know, that saying, we know not what we do. In the moment we're saying or doing anything, we're saying and behaving according to how things are looking to us in that moment. And you know how people have an argument and then the next day they wake up and they can't even remember what they argued about, right? I mean, that's pretty common with the couples that I meet with. And that really underscores people's innocence, that in the moment, something that set them off, it could be brought up in another moment and it would not set them off, because they'd be in a different headspace. They'd be looking out through a different vantage point, depending on where their level of consciousness is, right? So what would set you off in a really low mood, in a higher mood, you'd see it for what it was, that it was just how the person was seeing it in that moment. And when you see this, even when something starts to get creepy feeling, bad feeling in that moment, it's easy to back away and to not get caught up, not to get drawn into it, because you realize, well, bad moment for that person.
Yeah, yeah. When I first heard this from Sid, it took me a while to get it, because I hadn't really given myself the kind of forgiveness or understanding that this brings, that it really is that we can only do, every moment we can only do whatever thinking we've got on our minds. We can't do anything other than that. And people get caught up in, well, I should have been able to see it then, or, you know, but you can't do that. And being able to see that people are psychologically innocent. I mean, thank God we have thought, because we might be able to have this understanding for someone, but we may need to stop them from what they're doing out of that low level of thinking, you see. It doesn't share about, you know, legal innocence or whatever. It's just sharing the truth about us and how where our experience comes from. So people are only able to act from the quality of thinking they're in this moment. And I think that's a beautiful understanding to have. It's the same when you're there in a relationship with another person, to see that they're acting from the level of thinking they're in at that moment. That's all they can do. Now, I want to just share one other thing with me, because I've had, in the last year, I've had several of my therapy clients coming in who are using Match.com and all of these other kinds of internet providers that help with meeting up. But what I've learned from them is that they understand this piece. They understand what we've been sharing about today, and they go out to meet with someone. They're in this space. But there have been one or two incidents where through their thinking, they've realized this person is not good. This person is scary. And I've been able to use that information with the understanding they have in the moment to kind of cut the meeting short, and take care of themselves. So of course you have the understanding. I don't want to bring, I don't really want to bring in those elements of it, but I do want to bring in that you can have this understanding and still, because you have the gift of thought, know that somebody is acting in a way that's harmful or could be harmful. So, but when you do this with this understanding, you have a lot of wisdom to help you take care of the situation if you need to. Lori, I'm just checking in. I hope they didn't put a downer on the conversation or anything. But I just wanted to share that piece, that this is a beautiful understanding to get to, this psychological innocence. And yet you don't give up with it your ability to have thought that tells you this isn't good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even have to be a scary person,
Yeah.
It could be just somebody that you sense is not right for you. That's okay too.
Yeah, that's good. Lori, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The more I see this psychological innocence in people, the more I realize, when I used to think, well, I should have done better, I could have done better in hindsight, that would be kind of like lifting myself up by my own bootstraps. That's old saying, an impossible task. If we saw better, we would do better. It's really so simple. And so with that comes an automatic forgiveness, an automatic letting go, that you just know it is impossible to say or do anything different than how something appears to you in that moment. And it lets all of us off the hook that sometimes we have better moments than others. And that's true for everybody. Nobody's immune to that fact of life because of how the principles operate within everybody. Yeah, so really great questions. Who else? Oh, we're running out of time already. I think we have time for maybe one more question. And also, Mark mentioned that we've been talking about offering a course. We thought in terms of beginning in April, that's next month already, first week in April, there's exactly 4 Mondays. And we thought we would meet midday, like around the 2:30, half an hour earlier than we met today, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we would do that for 4 consecutive Mondays. So by all means, let one of us know if you're interested. We'll send you our syllabus. Yeah, it's been fun creating this. And I also want to tell you, if you don't already know about a Facebook group called Conscious Dating Community. It's a great way to connect on there. We have a nice little, I think there's about 50 or so people on there right now. So.
Just really quickly, Lori, I think too that you and I have been working on a way to let people know what this is about. And if people are on your email list for these webinars, they'll be getting that announcement for this, beautiful class, just a class of, 4 sessions to help people with this experience of meeting someone for the first time, or how to handle those relationships.
Right. There are so many points that we brought up just in this hour. So we're going to focus on, just a class on listening, or a class on connecting with somebody who you feel like you have to draw out more, or you know, any number of things that we will take from the participants. We're going to find out what the participants want to hear most about and create something for all of you. So any last questions or anything that you'd like to hear more about for future webinars? Or any comments? You know, I'd love to hear how your learning is. Dan, I see your hand
I
up.
really enjoyed and appreciated listening. Just one comment, which when you introduced the 3 principles, I noticed you said mind, thought, and consciousness, and a lot of which I really liked that ordering. A lot of people say thought, consciousness, and mind. That's the 3 principles, and so I just enjoyed that, and it kind of resonated with me. So I just wanted to say, and I'm sure everybody has their own way of saying it. But, that's all, and I enjoyed being here. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's got a nice feeling to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Dan. How did you first hear about the principles? I'm just curious.
It must have been, how did I first hear about the principles? It was actually, I was on a call, and part of another spiritual group called Waking Down, and it was a guy actually who was in Italy who said he had come across this book. It was a book by Michael Neal. And so I kind of read the introduction to that, and it really resonated with me. Just the part that there's no practices and there's nothing to remember. All you have to do is read the book, and you'll have insights. I thought, okay. And from there, I just kind of immersed myself in exploring different things, and wanted to be on the webinar just to kind of be exposed to some other people, other teachers, and other people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It was just, one of those serendipity. I think that's true for a lot of people. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We should bring it to a close, don't you think, Lori?
Yeah, it's 4, so I have to go back to my office now. After 4. So great seeing all of you. Thank you so much for coming on board, making this possible, and thanks for doing this with me, Mark. I always love.
Oh, Lori, I really love this. It's just been a wonderful feeling, and loving the chance to be with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing it with you, Lori.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, more of this is coming up.
Yeah, more coming.
Great.
Okay, everybody, have a great time. Connect with me on, do you want to give your email address, Mark? Is that good, or your website? So people.
Yeah, my email address is, real quickly, it's Dr. Mark Howard, DR, the abbreviation, Dr. Mark Howard at Comcast.net. So feel free to drop me a line if you'd like. And I'm
3principlestherapy@gmail.com. The number 3, not 3 spelled out. Great. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are, and hope to see you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Laura, you should stop the recording.
Oh, stop the recording before I end the meeting? Yeah, thank you.